I don't think I'm ready for this guy.
Shut up.
I'm ready. I'm Zach Jones. I'm Zach Jones.
Remember that song?
Yeah, motherfucker Jones was my name in college.
281-335-8004. Remember that?
I don't know that.
Yeah.
Zach Jones up on the low because Zach Jones about to blow.
Very fast, yep.
This 15? 16. Almost.
All right, fellas. So we are live on episode number 16 of the podcast.
Sweet 16, baby.
With
Light a candle.
Zach Dingee, Tony, and we have a special guest on here today, as we're going to introduce as the
Zach Jones. Zach Jones. Zach Jones. Who?
Yo, appreciate
The
it, guys.
fucking Renaissance man. Give us a little background on this guy.
So this guy, I'll give you the 10-second scoop and we're going to get into his thing. But this guy has been cumulatively to 30 different countries, multiple times to a couple of them. If you add up basically the time frame that he's been away, he's been living outside of the country for 3 years. And you said you lived full-time abroad in Australia, right?
Yeah, I lived in Australia for like 8 months.
Australia as well.
It was the farthest place my scholarship would take me to study abroad, and I didn't have to learn a language. So.
Born right next to Lil Wayne. He was in the next hospital bed as Lil Wayne.
Yeah.
Shout out Weezy F.
Same hospital as Wheezy Baby.
Weezy Baby.
And,
The F is for Flapjack Facts, baby.
Flippity fact check facts?
Yeah, bro.
Big flapjack facts, baby. Zach Dingee with the flapjack facts. And to the last note, probably the first guy I've ever met who was adopted from 2 lesbian parents. I don't think
by
two lesbian parents, sorry. I don't know if I've ever met someone that, obviously I've met people adopted, but with 2 lesbian parents, like, that is so interesting.
Hell yeah.
That's so interesting. Alright, so let's start off with some real fun stuff. Give me the best places you've traveled to. Like, where should someone go?
Well, I think it really depends. I think there's this notion as Americans that like we travel like we P. Diddy. Like we gotta have the whole Sweet 16 and everything. We gotta have the the Ciroc, and we gotta be there is a whole world of travel that people aren't even privy to. I'm considered a flagship backpacker, which means I backpack. I lived for 3.5 months out of a 50-liter backpack. That's like literally only 20 liters bigger than the school backpack.
Holy shit.
I riding motorcycles across Thailand.
Yeah, dude, I have a 42-liter backpack.
Right. I lived my whole life.
That's what I use every day.
My whole life was in that.
Wow.
But what that allows me to do is I would live in hostels, for example. This is one way. A lot of people think of the movie Hostel, like people get killed.
Scared and shit.
It's not like that. They're super luxurious now. They're crazy. They got pools. They got old eco-friendly ones. They have like all different types of things. I went to stay one in Singapore. It was all about entrepreneurship. I was just meeting people who had crazy bread, but were there for the collective experience of interacting with different and merging businesses or nonprofits, right? So the world of travel is really diverse, just like anything. But yeah, I guess what I'd be considered as a flagship backpacker. I no longer stay in the $3 hostels. I'm like in the $10 or $15 hostels.
Oh shit!
But what the weekends look like is we staying at the baller places because you're saving money. But what that does, it allows me, like for instance, when 2016 I lived in Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam for 3.5 months, and I spent $4,000 the whole time.
Shit.
So it's one of those things that like, people don't realize. My friend currently is living abroad. I don't want to get him in trouble with work. He's working remote, but he has been living for all of COVID in Sweden, Switzerland. He's been in Netherlands. He's been in Israel. He's been all over, and he's saving more money living abroad by the way that the style we do than he is at home.
So what you're saying is you can get out there and travel without breaking your pockets.
100%.
3.5 months, $4,000.
Let me give you this. Like,
it's
if you can hunt for the right tickets, I did right before COVID, 2019. Literally when COVID was coming out of Italy, I was there, and I literally left 3 days before the country shut down.
Yeah.
So, but to put in perspective how much I paid, I went to Mexico for 10 days with my boys, flew back to New York, spent the night, took my mom down to the city for the night, and then flew out to Italy for 8 days for $600. So both flights were $300.
Wow.
So it really is one of those things that it's a misnomer about how we travel, and oftentimes like cruises versus packages. If you ever have questions, you guys or any of the audience, you guys can hit me up on my social and stuff like that.
Hell yeah.
Long way to go _travel. Like, you got questions, I charge like a little fee on that, but oftentimes you're getting a lot more, and we're having like a much diverse dialogue. So if you're going to be an adrenaline junkie, something like that, we can figure that out. And because of my travel, I tend to have like a lot of connections and
Hell yeah.
people or get feedback. You know, at least if you have questions
I
about
feel
it.
like that's a big thing. Like you just said, you have friends in all these different places. Like that's cool as hell. Like
Yeah.
from the hostels and just meet. Like when you're out there, you're just find people you connect with them and then you stay friends. You know what I mean?
Friends for life, man.
Yeah.
Let's see, my friends Nir, Nor, and Shai. I met them I met Nir and Nor in Vietnam on this party boat, just getting hammered for 4
I'm sorry,
days straight.
can you just say those names again?
So they're Israeli. There's their background: Nir, Nor, and Shai. So
I think
Shai
at
is.
first it was a sentence.
It sounds like a saying.
Yeah, no. So like,
Nir,
yeah, like
Nor, and Shai.
yeah. So they speak, you know, like their language is Hebrew and English, of course,
Got it.
but they're American born, but their families are from Israel, so speak fluent Hebrew, you know.
That's crazy.
But we've been friends. We've traveled to Colombia together. We've done other countries. We've done like all sorts of trips together, and it's just because we were the only Americans out of like 70 people on this boat. You know, and so it's like, you know, you really build strong connections.
Dude, I traveled to Greece and I spent like 22 grand in like 2.5 weeks.
That's because those Greece people, they be robbing you.
Dude, it was
And it's not just Greek
crazy.
people everywhere. If you go as an American, they see you as easy prey because we are told. Like when I lived in Australia, like for example, I'd go to my friends' cribs and hang out, and their parents would be like, "Yo, you a bum for not traveling." That's like expected
Yeah.
as like a rite of passage of stepping into adulthood, being self-sufficient,
Yeah.
raising money, going out. How do you delegate that money? How are you financially sound? You know, like
Yeah.
you're gonna get drunk one night and have your wallet or phone stolen. What do you do?
Yeah.
And so, and it's same for my European friends. So it's an American concept that we have this thing again. You got to have the bells and whistles, or you can eat.
Right.
You know.
It's based in fear.
I feel like-
I think.
Yeah, I think so. And it's creating otherness rather than collectiveness, and that's something that I think we need more of is empathy, understanding, and collectiveness.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
I feel like 80% of people, when they think vacation, they think like Florida, the beach, to hang out and drink beers and like that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like a cruise ship. They don't think like go to Vietnam and see
The world.
museums or the world or like hikes and stuff. They just think vacation. I'm going to Florida for 5 days and I'm just gonna get obliterated in Miami for 5 days.
Right.
You know what I mean?
because I think as Americans we see vacation as almost nothingness
Yeah.
rather than productiveness.
Mm.
That's true.
I find myself.
That's a bar.
You know, but you know, I see it. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, again, I'm not going to throw names out here because I don't know people's connections or affiliations or how they want to keep their own
You know
personal
who you
lives.
are.
Yeah, you know who you are. One of my best friends. He's like a great guy from Indonesia. His family is very successful. They own a logistics company. You know, mine blew my mind. He's so humble. He was doing, you know, like working as like with therapists and helping people with like, you know, substance abuse, all these things. He worked all these jobs at college. He did like what we're like, you know, what B Money does behind the camera here with like sets and systems. But we could have bought a Ferrari going off the lot for his first car.
Right.
But I would never have known because the work ethic and the way that his family has raised him
Yeah.
is a different, you know, set of systems. Or maybe he learned what not to do, and this is how he wants to do, you know.
Yeah.
But his family's very successful. You know, the family works super hard, and they deserve everything. But
Yeah.
you know, it's again, he came to America. We've done trips together and stuff like that. But again, it's based in a different type of mentality that Americans
Yeah.
have, and you know, as you said about, you know, it's a lot of prices hit a lot. It's a lot about fear.
Yeah. Dude, my dad's 57. He doesn't have a passport. He's never left the country in his life. That's why I wanted to travel like when I was young, because my dad never did it. I'm like, dude, there's so much shit to see in this world. Like, I don't know. I could never just stay in America my whole life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I can't even imagine. So let me ask you, what's the number one place you've ever been to?
I tend to.
Most fun.
It's hard because what I tend to do is I break it up in like what you're trying to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's
you're
true.
like, if you're like trying to go to the most serene, like mind healing place, one of them I'd be like, go to New Zealand. That shit is literally Hobbiton. The whole damn island.
Really?
Shit is different.
Wow.
I solo traveled there when I was 21. I was like, told my mom, I was like, I want to be a man. I want to be self-sufficient. Like, I'm gonna call you. I'm gone for 2 weeks, like off the map.
Yeah.
And I went like cave dive, like cave schwunking we call it. You jump into like holes in mountains and you like see glowworms and you like just a life jacket with some folks.
What?
Like volcanic rivers, like full waterfalls that are like hotter than hot tubs. Like I couldn't get in for a while because it was too hot. You know,
Dope.
you know, literally the
That was in New Zealand?
Yeah, bro. And then you can go to the peak of the island and stand on the top of it if you're in the right place, and you can see two different types of forests. You can see rainforests and temperate forests. Rainforests, but the island is split just by the mountain peaks.
Yeah.
So you look at both sides of the mountain. You know, so like if you're talking like a nature person, you like hiking. You know, especially Americans, we don't really get out there.
No.
It was definitely mind blowing. Definitely like pretty healing.
Yeah, I
it was
like
cool.
that.
Yeah, cool not knowing anybody and just being
Crazy.
greeted as just who I am. I don't
Yeah.
pretend. I can be my true self. Like.
So you always go to these places by yourself too, or usually?
So what happens is that's how it started. Was I was asking a ton of my friends in America. I was really lucky. I got a scholarship to go to Oakwood Friends School over here in Poughkeepsie, New York, which is an international boarding school.
Correct.
And day school. And I was going to school with Koreans and Chinese folks and people from Dominica, small island in the Caribbean. You know, kids on scholarship, kids that had, fathers were like the CFO at like Pepsi. You know, it's like.
Yeah.
Real tough life.
Money.
Yeah, you know, it's both, you know, because like there's some of us who are scholarship or getting, you know, sponsored. But that really like opened my eyes to being like, oh, there's such different ways of being and such different ways of communicating. And if you can, it's hard for us as Americans, you know, I say that we love to have an opinion on something we know nothing about, you know.
Dude, bro, that is so weird. I've been thinking about that all fucking day today.
Dude, we got some
swear
synergy
to
right
God.
now, you know.
I was thinking before, like, how bad social media is, strictly because it gives so many people an opinion that have no right to have an opinion on that topic.
I mean, side note to this, Charles, you saw what they did with Twitter. They have started putting a thing that lets you know that you shared an article that you haven't read. Because so many people just share it and they've never read it. And they're just
That's
like
fire.
talking and chirping.
Wow.
I don't care if you right, left, what a rutabaga, bro.
Yeah.
Like, educate yourself.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I perceive the world.
Yeah.
So what I feel through my
Can't
social
believe you said
media,
that.
through just myself being in the space around the world, is my job is I feel like it's to help spark that interest.
Yeah.
Whether it's through my job working with kids, whether it's being on a podcast with you guys, talking to the viewers that you guys have. I think it's important that we like change our mindsets around stuff.
Yeah. So you just brought it up right there. Now tell us, what do you do? You said you work with kids. I know you have a very interesting job.
So I work as an outdoor education, in outdoor education. I'm not like your Patagonia REI guy. I'm more in this space of nature. We call it nature connection. We've started like distinguishing what the difference is, because with like Patagonia, the hikers and climbers, they're very much connected to nature and in it.
Yeah.
But like if you watch someone like Alex Honnold, Free Solo, I don't know if y'all seen that. It's like one of the most amazing feats of humankind. He climbs El Capitan with no rope, which is 4,000 plus feet.
What?
He
You know,
is,
you've never heard that?
man, it's different. Tony, you gotta watch it. I'm telling you, like I want you to watch it, and I want you to text me. It is,
Wow.
you know. And then I just watched one about the other one called The Alpinist, which I forget the gentleman's name, but he even goes farther than Alex Honnold, and he does ice and rock climbing. So he uses ice picks.
Don't tell him what happens at the end.
Yeah, no, I won't. No,
No,
spoilers.
that one.
Suicide?
That one,
No.
Alex Honnold's in that one. He goes, "This is my hero." I was like, "Oh, there's someone more gangster than a dude who climbs 4,000 plus feet with no rope."
No rope.
You know, so.
So you said you're not that. So what
I'm not.
what are
that.
you?
So what I do is my job, and I feel like in life and with people, is to not see nature as other. Nature is everything. We are animals. We are immersed in it. So whether you believe in climate change or not, nature don't give a fuck, because what's changing is changing.
Right.
So my opinion is bringing, access to. I don't know if you guys ever heard the term BIPOC. It's like black, indigenous, people of color. It's like running the gamut, making sure we all have access.
Got it.
For the viewers, you can look it up, but there's much better definitions online. But that's really like making sure that everyone has equitable access to outdoor spaces. A lot of my kids, their parents would love for them to be outdoors. Mom works 3 jobs.
Wait a second. What do you mean has equal access to outdoor spaces?
So, for example, to go hike at Minnewaska, which is probably an hour from here,
Yeah, no.
you need a car. There ain't no bus that goes there. So how you getting there? You might have.
Okay, so you're saying like inner city kids, how the fuck are they getting out?
Well, it's inner city,
Wow.
but it's also if say let's take suburb Tocqueville right here. what if your family doesn't ever instill that you should go outside or play or do stuff? Because that's like that's a new thing here in 2022.
Okay.
How are you to know to go out in nature and interact in a healthy way?
Okay.
All
So
you
how do
know is
engage
Fortnite and
with these
Apex.
Kids.
Dude.
Where do you pick them up?
So I'm lucky enough to work with the Kingston School District. I work at an organization called Wild Earth. I'm the associate director there.
That's where I'm living. I live in Kingston.
Oh, word. We should chop it up out there, man. I'm there 4 days a week.
Okay.
But yeah, you're welcome to stop by the program, come to school. You
Where
can meet
is
all
it
the
in
kids.
Kingston?
I work at JFK Elementary. I work at Bailey Middle School, Miller Middle School, and we're in the high school now.
Schools.
Oh, shit.
That's a throw it in there.
No, you're straight. You're straight.
So you're basically like that. So I don't know. When we were young, man, like I lived in an HOA, but we had like the woods was around our HOA, dude.
Yeah, right behind it.
And we used to fucking be in the woods every
Yeah,
day,
bro.
manhunt every night. Like, it
Literally,
was
that's
so.
how I grew up, was in the woods. So that's why I asked, because like I never even considered.
But our generation,
We have five
I mean,
brothers that-
how old are you, Tony? I'm 29. How old are you, Tony?
30.
20, and then you're a baby.
Yeah,
I
I'm 23.
23. I mean, but you're an old soul out here, you know? What about you, B-Money?
28.
28, yeah. So our generation was...
28.
Our generation is very much like come out when the lights come on type, like a little bit of that reminiscence of the 50s, 60s. This new generation of parenting there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons. No matter what generation you look at, you can always be like, it was better then, it was better here. Was it really?
Yeah.
Not
There's
really.
trade-offs, always.
Always a trade-off. So what we do is I'm trying to show kids that spending an hour outside is beneficial to you, and you can also go back and get back on the iPad.
Yeah.
I'm also relatable. I'm a young person of color, I'm mixed race, I speak a little bit of Spanish, so I can literally apply to the gamut. I like video games, played violin for 9 years, you name it, I've probably done some version, but instead of focusing on just a lot of time what these programs do, is they ram nature first. So imagine if I took Tony out and I brought Tony like 5 miles hike in the woods. I'm like, all right, you're gonna sleep in this thing called a debris hut.
Yeah.
Tony's like, what the fuck is a debris
Too
hut?
much, too quick.
Too much, too quick, and then we also, the space has been a little bit, again, not to get too political or crazy, it's been a little bit like westernized. So what it says is like a lot of folks have been saved by nature, so they think that should be everybody else's Bible. And so they shove it down in a way that whereas instead of recognizing where like Tony might be like, dude, camping at the Yellowstone or like camping in a park is like my threshold right now.
Yeah.
I honor and respect that. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I'll be like, once we have a rapport and a relationship, I go, yo, you want to try a little something extra?
Right.
And they're like, oh yeah, I trust you.
Yeah.
So our relationship's built in trust, and then nature is the backdrop.
Right.
So many programs are like nature, 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 and shoving it down children's throat, shoving down parents' throats, and those parents haven't been educated either. And so when you mix and this can be whether you're in the suburbs, whether you're in urban spaces, whether you're in urban communities, it's probably, I would call it an epidemic everywhere.
Yeah.
So what our company does is we kind of fit all the niches. We do weekend private programs where you can like hire us to like do something for a corporation, and we'll take you out on the weekend and do like some sensory type meditation thing. Like we do weekend programs with a lot of kids come from the city, but those kids have been with us every weekend, once a month. And they're like gangsters at what they do. They can do like fires with just sticks and like all this like we skin like we skin chipmunks and squirrels. They know how to do it by like 10.
That's cool.
But it's because their families are invested in it. But then what we realized is like all these people, we were started as a mom and pop. We're like a small nonprofit. We got like 15 employees like full time. And then what happened was we were really diverse, and then we started getting a lot of a kind of like rapport and reputation, and we started having a lot of people who were just like yups from the city, and we kind of lost the diversity. We kind of like soccer moms who could just, again, I don't have anything against them, their kids are amazing, so I don't want anyone listening or watching this to take that the wrong way. They just have a parent who could be home, who didn't have to worry, who could actually just jump on and click, and then our camp would be filled. So what we've really done is like changed our focus and how we have access. We used to not have enough girls. Why didn't we provide enough space for women? We used to have a bunch of men teachers. Oh, we got to diversify. We got to add women to speak to young, because they're not going to do that. Sometimes they're not going to speak the way I can't do what they can do.
Of course.
Yeah. Same with all sorts of representations. Bilingual speakers.
Yeah.
They might not be able to speak English, but they grew up in a Spanish household, so there's a comfort in speaking. So it's like we try to diversify in many capacities.
Yeah.
And so that's like what it
So you said a crazy number before. How many kids have you?
So I was trying to run the numbers because I knew we would probably talk about this on podcasts. I'm going to say conservatively 6,500, so 6,500 kids.
Wow.
So in the Kingston School District alone, I've graduated now 2 senior classes, so 2 years. So my first kids ever were graduated during COVID, which really sucked, and I felt really bad for them.
Sucks.
But I work now with pretty much from seniors all the way down to kindergarten. So today I was with the kindergartners. We couldn't go out in the rain, so we just did a bunch of games and activities.
Did this school hire you for that?
Yeah. So what we are is we're our organization is contracted. Is brought in as a contractor, like a contractor, and
Through the state?
no. So the schools specifically decide. So we're part of a thing called the Title III school, which is the school system's so messed up, and that's partially why we're there. If you do a lot of people don't realize how this works, and they love to get up in arms and how school systems work. If you perform poorly, even if they know it's because of lack of funds, you lose funds. How backward is that?
Yeah.
So that's why schools like Arlington, NFA, they're like, we got to build the football program to be robust, because that will bring the state and the bodies that be recognize that, and they'll give money to that, which then can trickle over into other places.
Yeah.
So for instance, in Kingston, when I joined about 6 years ago, they had just closed, I think it was 1 or 2 elementary schools. So 5th grade was with 8th graders in the same building. Yeah. My tallest 8th grader right then was, I think, 6'8", 6'9", and my shortest, I had 5th graders who can't even open a locker, and they're sharing the same hallway.
Yeah.
We're coming in, we're using a specific pool of money and being really thoughtful about how we do it. Our goal is not to ever detract from the community or take away from something that, and we also fundraise a lot because we're a nonprofit. So we actually, for that program, I think we pay 2/3 of it. They pay 1/3. So we raise the money for 2/3 of it. So every kid goes free. Every single child has free access to this.
Doing some fucking
and that's the access thing I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So whether Tony believes, say Tony has kids, I don't know if you do, and he's he can't have the time, he'd rather focus on baseball or hanging out with his daughter because they do cheer or whatever. He doesn't have to worry about this. When they come to school, this is now part of their curriculum and part of their space in their life.
So it's like an elective almost.
A little bit, yeah. You opt in. 5th and 6th graders opt into my program. They sign up. We're the largest after-school program. We take in the spring, we take 30 to 40 kids.
Yeah, this sounds like something I would have loved to do in fucking school.
Right, and it's also because the Spanish students feel comfortable with us because we have a lot of we were fairly bilingual, and we're working on improving that. You have kids who never would have interacted.
Yeah.
And parents who are conservative, and parents who are liberal, and you have all these different family mindsets, and we just we ain't here for the rah-rah.
Right.
We're here to have fun, we're here to connect,
right.
and we're just here to be outside.
Wow.
That's all it is. So that's what I do for a living.
Some fucking good
That's
shit, man.
fucking cool as
That's
hell.
some really cool shit. Because I feel I don't know, there's so much shit in society now where it's just you play with your friend, or you relate to your friends because they are like you.
You know what it's called? It's called preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
I've watched your guys' podcast, and I'll just be really blunt. I was I could tell that you guys have more conservative values than me, but what I thought was so valuable and what I really wanted to come on is we're meant to share. Just because you have a different thought process, or we might veer, we're so pitted against each other across the aisle. Mm-hmm. I can feel angry and upset with you and still respect you as a man.
Of course,
right. That's how
I can also tell you what you're saying might hurt my feelings or personally hurt me, as I'm black and Vietnamese, I'm black and Asian. Yeah. So something like a view or a person you might vote for, or something you might hurt me, but instead of yelling at you,
right.
maybe I can just let you know and convey an empathy, and we can have a dialogue as men.
Yes.
Right?
That's how I am too. I am pretty conservative. But you know what? I don't give a fuck what you like and what you do. It doesn't bother me. Just don't push it on me. And I don't care.
Yeah.
Let's just talk.
100%. I think
that's how I feel. I would never push my values on anybody else. I mean, maybe a little bit. But I'm not gonna argue with you about it. Maybe I will. Yeah, I probably will.
Well, again, part of that thing that goes back to my biggest thing is being I try to presence in any kind of conversation like this, and also when people ask me like what I do, and whether they agree with it, oh, is this some hippie bullshit, or we're out here, doing some crazy nonsense. No, there is, the school of thought that I came from initially was that, but I realized that that's if someone chooses to go to it. We can't start there. We need to, again, create dialogue, create space, create understanding. And it's interesting because, again, not to, make this crazy and racial, but I was like thinking about this the other day, this notion like in the South during, the 60s, the KKK and like people, racist folks would be like, there's a lot of stories where there's black people in that community, it's predominantly white, and they're like, well, the Johnson family, they're all right. Yeah. But you want to know why they think they're all right, even though they're racist against black people? It's because they know them. They're familiar. They see it. And that's our biggest thing is like, again, we can't heal everything through that. There is trauma that I think we do have to address and recognize, but I think just on a simple day-to-day basis, if we stepped into a little bit of place of just being like, I might want to judge that, but before I judge you outright, maybe I should inquire.
Person to person, right?
Right.
No,
yeah.
I really agree with that. Like, I could probably get into a heated argument with somebody if we're just talking about our values.
Right.
But like if I'm just sitting here and we're chilling, I'm gonna connect with any and everyone. Like and I love people. I fucking hate people, and I'll say that all day long.
Yeah.
But I really love people. I don't think I could sit down with somebody and really fucking. Like, I'll argue with you if you want, but, like, at the end of the day, I fuck with people, like,
well, I think
everybody.
The way you would break that down in emotions, I think, is what you're able to do is have empathy.
Yeah.
And, like, that's where I think a lot of times we have to meet,
It's easy to hate a group, and it's really easy, it's hard to
hate an individual.
A person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the otherness, again, nature, around travel, it's like, so that's my collective thing, is removing otherness.
You know what a different perspective I have on it is too, like what you're saying? I think in society, we have a lot, not even insecure, but just like unconfident people, and I think it stems from like, if I walk into a bar, and there's 6'4" dudes, and they're like jacked the fuck up, and let's say they're MMA fighters, I'm immediately unconfident because I know I'm gonna get knocked the fuck out if something happens. Same thing, and that's you'll get where I'm going at in a second. Because that's like a whole different point. But my point is like, to be able to have your own food and to skin your own squirrel and to make your own fire and to do all that kind of stuff. Like for a 12-year-old to be able to do that, they don't realize it, but in 10 years, like the confidence you're gonna have from that. Like I train a little bit of boxing, a little bit of jujitsu. And I do a little bit of outdoor stuff, but just the fact that I have some of that simple stuff makes me so confident. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things in there, society-wise, a big thing I've been looking into and starting to study, and I know people get like, all like, why are you talking about this? Like, I think like how we define masculinity, how we see things, that's like a thing like you're talking about in that bar scenario is like, I don't feel, I mean, on like if something goes down, I mean, that's fair, but like that's also assuming worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Also too, like if it's really going down, like I'm not claiming I'm some gangster, but I'm about it if you're trying to snatch we've been out here traveling, we've had some situations, don't ever get it twisted. I'm the kindest person in the world, but I think that's also knowing, do you have that next gear? Yeah. Do you have that thing? And I think that's a big part of it is like, I've been in situations where people are about to throw down. I like to dismantle and disarm people through intellect.
Yeah, I'm not saying you should like masculinity, like you should fight people, because I'm just saying now, if you don't know how to start a fire, or you don't know how to fight these
being
things,
self-proficient
like
is what you're pointing to.
I feel like you're way more insecure about anything. You know what I mean? Like about going to a bar. In the back of your head, you're like, I hope nothing breaks out because I'm really scared. I don't want to do anything. You know what I mean?
I think what you're talking about is that like almost like a primal instinct of security. What, do you feel sound in who you are?
People who don't, like the stuff you're teaching for those kids, like they don't realize, but in 10 or 15 years, man, the fact that they can build fires, they know how to make their own food, they know how to survive in the wild. I feel like that's so valuable. Like when you have a family and you know that if shit goes south, you're able to be okay no matter what,
Yeah, and I think it's one thing
survive.
What our program also does is not just nature; it's social emotional support as well. So it's a lot of people don't realize. There's like, even though I'm not a psychology major, I won't pretend I went to school for this. It's something that's learned over time, but it's like learning how you want to be addressed and how someone wants to be talked to you. It's really simple. Just be like, "You good?"
Yeah.
Right, and then people are like, "I'm fine." Like
he's an Italian fucking family. That's how it was your whole life, right?
Well, it's like that for my friends in India, Nepal. A lot of families who are immigrant families. It's like, you know, I had a kid in school who was telling me a story in high school how he was out of line and the teacher hit him with a golf club, and his dad said, "Oh, you deserve that shit." What?
Wait, with a golf club?
Yeah, bro. Like, I'm not playing. Like that. Like, I was like, you're lying, dude. And he's like, no. He's like, yeah, it was this crazy scenario. I didn't know whether to believe it or not. But I also, I'm being part Asian and spending time in Asia. Some of those parents don't play.
Yeah.
You know.
Well,
Yeah.
wait a second. What did the kid do?
I don't know the whole story. I
Deserve to get hit with a golf
don't
club?
know. I mean,
Shit.
Let's be
you're
honest.
asking for psychologically traumatized children, though. You know, and like that's like what it is too. A lot of times people don't realize children are not the behavior.
Repeat
Think about that a second.
Wait, no. I mean, dissect that.
Yeah, children are not their behavior.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Because children are doing a behavior to get a certain type of response.
Right.
Yeah.
So I grew up with very abusive neighbors. My neighbor, the daughter who used to get hit, the only way she knew how to receive any type of interaction was through negativity. She would start a fight with me. But really she was just saying, like, can you see me?
Right.
I just want to interact with somebody that's not in my abusive household.
Because that's all she knows.
Because that's all she knows, and I used to not get it. And my mom was like, no, you hit the short kindness and love. But then after you like got older, like, then she like came around and was like, oh, what I'm really trying to say is like I want to hang out.
Yeah.
But it's because she's never taught the language.
That's how she gets attention from her parents. So
Exactly.
Why would she try anything different for other people? That's all she
So,
knows.
like, if you have a child, for example, which we have many children who are living in motels or homeless,
Yeah.
and then like there's a really great poem you can look up, just like right in Google, like the pencil poem, and it's a poem that basically depicts of how like a kid had to like get his sister ready for school, cook their food, take care of their grandma or something like that, like get on the bus, do all these things, and like the biggest journey is getting to school, and they get in trouble for not having a pencil.
Yeah, right.
And that, but that's like the thing where it goes to the behavior, where it's like, yo, you just literally ran the gauntlet just to be here. Are we focusing on the right thing? Are we fostering the right thing? Because what we're telling you is, don't show the fuck up.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
And if you want an educated and you want a wholesome world and you want people who are going to arrive and be good, financially sound, good business people, all of that's got to start from a sturdy base.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the way I see it, and that's what we try to bring. And nature's the backdrop in this particular program that I'm overseeing.
Yeah.
You know, so that's how
That's the
like
fuel. That's the piece that you're teaching all that stuff through is nature, you're saying.
right. You know, and I think what we're doing different than there's really amazing nature programs all across the East Coast, all on the West Coast. Friends have worked for them. I think that's where we're differentiating ourselves. Is we're centralizing relationship. We're centralizing meeting somebody. You know, like I'll have a kid that act out. I'll be like, I think you're acting out because you're feeling upset. Do you want to talk about that?
No.
When you get called out your name like that, and it's not about being like, where there used to be like, you're bad, go to the principal office, get a referral, go home, parent pissed.
Dude, that's how I was my whole life.
Rinse,
man.
cycle,
It's
repeat.
like, let's fix this. It's like,
Right.
let's
So
do
we
something.
want to be not just we are so used to America's societal band-aids. And I think the world in general.
I'll tell a personal story with this, man. I was literally just talking to Sarah about this, my girlfriend, the other day, about how, like, in high school, I used to try to get with a lot of women. That was the thing in high school, and I was bad about it. And the reason, like, I recently tried to self-reflect on why things were and why I was the way I was, and all of it was because my dad was never around. My mom I couldn't talk to, and so when shit would go south, my parents never talked. Like, when I was upset or anyone was upset in the household, it was like, everyone go to their fucking rooms and shut up. And nobody, like, we're done.
Yeah.
And so I never talked about my feelings. So then in high school, it was like, I want people to see me, and I want to be heard, and I want people to know who I am or whatever. And so it was just like, in being insecure, I used to try to get women, try to be the cool guy, and be the quarterback of the team and the point guard. Like, it was all just so I could feel somebody to talk to me. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get that. I had the same thing. I was like, all my boys were like running up these numbers, and I was like, oh, this is what I gotta do.
Yeah.
I gotta be that man, cause like, you know.
Dude, it was
Captain
all
Smith.
just to be cool.
But then I felt so, like, personally, you know, people can clown me on this. I really actually just, it didn't feel good. Like, I didn't feel fulfilled. Like, I was like, cool, like, she wants to sleep with me, she wants to do this, like, great. And, you know, I reflect back and there's still an element of like, oh, that was kind of the shit. But at the same time, it's like, if I'm being real with myself, then it's like, I didn't really feel good about that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, or like, it wasn't as
You
fun as it
know,
could have
you
been.
always know.
Yeah, and there's ones that, and you can have flings and do something and they'd be great, but it's just like if you're coming with the right intention again.
No.
You know, like if you like, you know, if everyone's on the same page, you're doing what you do. But you know, a lot of time, especially, and that's just, again, that's the thing with masculinity. I think with a lot of my boys, it's a big conversation. Is like they're just doing it for a reaction. They're doing it for fulfill. They're doing it to get someone's attention. You know.
No.
Let's hear about your upbringing and foundation. You know.
Yeah, sure.
Because you're talking so much about masculinity, and it's not like not trying to be a dick about it, but like it's crazy that you're that intelligent with it, and you were raised by 2 women.
Right, so I was adopted from New Orleans.
Yep.
I was born in in Charity Hospital down in New Orleans.
Yep.
My mom is Vietnamese. My dad is black. Might be like Dominican black. I don't really know the whole story. I have a closed adoption, which means that I was not allowed to file to meet them until I was 25.
Oh, wow.
So there was rules around it. So I actually recently just filed for paperwork to potentially meet my parents.
How do you feel about that?
Fine, you know, I think part of the thing is, again, around adoption, this is something I might want to talk about on my own podcast or with, you know, some other friends that are mine that are adopted from different places or families that, I think family is like an interesting topic, how it's made, because a lot of people have different families, they're made differently.
Yeah.
Maybe live with your grandparents, your parents go to jail, you live with your uncle.
Right.
That's not a normal family.
Right.
I mean, we just like to think that's normal, but it's like, it is, and in some ways it is actually the norm. So like we create this societal norm, but really everyone has such diverse families, you know? So I was adopted by 2 women, and yeah, I was raised here in the Hudson Valley. You know, it was really
So
great.
how old are you when you moved from New Orleans to here?
So I was a very early adoption. I was 2 weeks.
Wow.
My mom was 16 when she had me. My birth papers say Negro on it, literally, in 1992.
Smokes.
So if people want to talk about racism and all that stuff being dead, my papers talking about my family says grandfather Negro, grandmother Negro, father Negro. So people can talk that talk and like, you know, say all this rah rah how stuff isn't there. This is 1992.
Yeah.
You know, so my mom went down with her black friend, who was also a lesbian, to pick me up. And they were driving through Baton Rouge, and they pulled over on the side of the road, and they were like, y'all shouldn't be seen together.
What?
Because she's black and she's white.
What?
Not because they were 2 women, not because my mom is like this cliche of a lesbian.
Yeah.
You can't tell. I used to be with my mom in the food store, and men would hit on her all the time.
Yeah.
Like, try to holler at her,
Yeah.
because they didn't know she was lesbian. You know, like, so, like, you know, and that's like there's different types of lesbians and different terms. Like, you know, there's like a joke is like we call them lipstick lesbians.
Yeah.
That's the lesbians that like you would never know.
Yeah,
It's just like, you know, there's like we joke around, we call them. Again, I would not advise anyone to use this language out there because you won't get yourself fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, or cause a, you know, but like we joke around with like, oh, she's such a pat. It's like the Karen, you know, like there's this, you know, the Karens, like Pat's like the buzz cut, like, you know, like, you know, rocking the Patagonia shirt, you know, like it's all fun and games and like, you know, but like every community has that. You're Italian, right? Your family's Italian. I'm sure you have like all sorts of jokes around that too. It's like Jersey Shore was like that. It was this play up of like our stereotypes and poking fun and like love and just like, you know.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think there's anything wrong with making fun. I think I'm a little too easy with the fucking making fun of. Like when you say Pat, like I don't think anyone should be offended by that, or even calling a lesbian lady a butch. Like
I think it's
everyone
time
should
and
be a
place.
little
I think
more
it's time and place.
comfortable.
I think it's all about having decorum and time and place. Like if I don't
think
know
if it's-
you and I'm like trying to use it's like trying to use words as a weapon. People try to claim that it's not. You saying, oh, like if your friend is a lesbian, you're like, oh, you're such a Pat. That's fair game.
Right.
But if your friend is like, hey Tony, like I feel uncomfortable with that, you're like, nah, shut the fuck up, you Pat.
Well, that's just then you're obviously.
But that's what we're doing to other people often. It's the, you know what I mean, and that's like that whole conversation. You know, I'm not here to tell anyone they're right or wrong. I think the scales are different. I also tend to agree that people do need to have a little bit of thick skin. They don't. We do need to be a little bit better resiliency. But I also think that if you're like friends with somebody or your coworkers, I don't care what you want or need. If you're more productive for me, you're putting like more better work. You're being more proficient. You're living a happier, healthy life. Like I'm just gonna like recognize what you need to recognize. Because again, like you said, this ain't in my house. This ain't in my home. This ain't my problem. You know, and that's again, or everyone could feel differently about that.
Yeah.
And I you know, that's just where I see it. And I think it ties in with everything, with kids, with everything, because it's just as easy to have the kid be like, well, he's a geek or a nerd. That's how easy it is just to flip it. And then a lot of people can get more like. Realize like, oh, I had that. I was beat up in the bathroom, or I was like the slut, or you know, like.
Yeah. See, I agree with everything you said. The only thing that I would note to it is like, I think 80% of that whole problem is in the person being made fun of, that they're not comfortable with whatever they're being made fun for. Like, they're not comfortable in the skin of you calling them a pat, and that's why they get offended. But if they were just comfortable with being lesbian, no one really gave a fuck, then it'd be cool.
Yeah, I think there's partial truth to that, but I also think, like, as a person who's mixed race, like, I can tell you that I've had people drive up and call me a nigger.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you want to edit that, you could bleep that, I don't know how y'all want to run because that's like...
Keep it!
But, like, again, don't advise people to drop that. I'm just saying that as just, like, you know, to explain the situation.
Yeah.
Or throw rocks at a car when we're playing basketball at us and call us that. You know?
Yeah, there's definitely some extreme
You know,
cases.
but what I'm saying is, and I'm not saying that to use that as just, like, the catalyst of, like, the example of everything, but it's just, like, I think that, again, it's more of just, like, I think people do need thicker skins, I agree.
Yeah.
But
I'm a little bit of an
It
extremist, I
blows
think,
my
because
mind.
even with the N word, bro,
Yeah.
it's all words. Somebody's gonna call me you could call me anything you want. It's fucking words.
I think that's easier said when you're not a group of people that have been, like,
Oppressed?
no, not even oppressed, because I think, like, if we look at the Italians were oppressed. But one thing that's really interesting if you look at this is, like, the Italians earned their whiteness. And it's very interesting how that works.
Ooh, I've never heard
Italians,
that before.
yeah, like a lot of people,
Yeah.
so that you can earn whiteness. The Irish were not considered white, they earned their whiteness in
Right.
Boston.
There was a while back when people hated the fucking Irish. in
Right?
America.
No, yeah, it's that's just
Fucking
how it
dirty
goes. Like
immigrants.
part of what I studied in school
Yeah,
and what I was
yeah.
interested in, and it's again not to be like, oh, because you have to go to college to get this stuff. It's actually just looking. You can look this up online. You can look into it. When the Italians were being treated like that, they were having the same complaints. They were having the same grievances.
Those
They
were
were
the
acting
soft
the same.
Italians. The soft ones.
I mean, if you're American Italian, that's all.
Well, you can call it whatever you want. I don't give a
See,
fuck. I think when you get offended by words, you give that other person power. And if you can't recognize that if someone's trying to hurt you with words, they're fucking the real soft ones. Like,
But there's a duality.
I see
in that.
through fucking people. If you're trying to hurt somebody with words, get the fuck out of here.
But see, the thing that he's saying is, and I actually agree with it now, a lot more. Like, now I understand what you're saying. Like, if I call you a guinea or something like that, that's like racist to an Italian or whatever they call Irish people, Asian people, whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's not nearly as bad as calling someone the N-word because of what the N-word stemmed from and like how they were
Right.
treated when the N-word was used as the N-word, you know?
I mean, the N-word comes from an era where, like, Leopold from Belgium killed 30 million Africans and then cut off another, like, multi-million African hands and has, like, photos with them.
What the fuck?
Like, people
Like, the
don't
word
understand
guinea
the
just says,
history. Like, people don't truly understand the history or fathom the numbers.
Yeah.
Like, when you start throwing those numbers, like, and again, tons of my friends are Jewish, I'm very privy to the Holocaust, I'm very empathetic towards it. People don't even realize the country next to where my family's from, Cambodia, had a genocide that killed 7 million to 8 million people under the guy named Pol Pot. And, like, I think it ended in, it was, like, 85.
That's crazy.
1985?
Yeah, 1985.
Dude, it's so crazy.
You
All this stuff that
let me
happens
tell
is
you,
not
in
that long ago.
Australia, you could hunt and kill an Aboriginal person. This is what I was told when I was there, until 1971. I could go shoot and hunt a black man till 1971. So when people say, like, these words don't have power, like, I think people don't truly understand how recent this history is, how deep it runs.
While you continue to stand for that, I'm gonna continue to disagree with you.
No,
I
and
think words
I
are
hear you.
words. Words are words, bro. Like,
But look, I got a question for you. If that's the case, it's got to apply everywhere. We need consistency.
Yes.
So if I run up on your mom and call her,
Consistent.
like, and I'm not saying this, I'm like, yo, fuck you, you stupid bitch. You gonna not do nothing?
Good point.
Because they're just
I'm gonna-
words.
so
That's a good point.
Because they're just
Am I
words.
gonna
Because
not
of me,
do
I'm
nothing?
ending you. I'm ending you, and I think you would too, Tony. And
yes, no, you're right. You're right. But
if
I
someone's,
give those words power by reacting, right?
yes and no. Imagine if you have a daughter, and they do that to her mother in front of you. You just be like, baby, they're just words. You're not gonna do that, Tony. You're a man. I can tell there's an integrity in there. There's a thing of standing up for people in your space. And I think that if someone does that in front of your children, in front of your woman, in front of your
Yeah,
partner,
but what's the right thing to do? Isn't it the right thing to go? It's all right, honey. Those are just words. Isn't that's the right thing to
I
do?
think so. I'm a person. I wouldn't call myself a pacifist by any means, but I am a person who would tend to use it with words. But I also can't fault somebody for feeling the other way.
Right.
You know, and that's what I'm trying to let people know too. Is like we have to create understanding. Just because you would feel that way, but I think if you found something that like, or imagine if like your partner or your family member had cancer and I was just clowning it.
Right.
You gonna just
You
say
get
they're just
offended.
words? No, you gonna end me. Like, you know, and so there's.
But what's the right thing to do? What's the right thing to do?
Well, the
It's
real
just
question is,
I don't know,
what
man.
is the right thing to do in that situation? If you're talking about societal standards and legal laws, would be do nothing.
Right.
So if I'm talking that rah-rah to your mom, your woman, your daughter, you're meant to do
I'm all
nothing.
mad now.
No, and I'm not trying to.
No, not at you, not at you.
No, but I'm just saying, like, but that's what I'm saying. We have to apply situations. A lot of times when we have thoughts on these, we
To
actually
our-
don't apply
to
them to
ourselves.
ourselves. We
Right.
don't apply them.
Right,
Because
but
I don't get why you're stuck. Because if someone says it to me, I usually be like, I'm so sorry that you feel so inadequate. Is there something I can do to help support you? People hate me for that.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, you sound like you're unloved. Do you
Oh,
need some
that's what I'm
love?
saying. That's how you reply. That's how you win.
But that's because I have done a lot of work. It doesn't mean that someone that has done a lot of work, and it also doesn't mean everyone should respond the same way. There's multiple ways to solve a math problem. Literally true. You know that new math the kids are doing? I can't do that.
I know.
Literally, multiple ways to go
Million
about
ways to skin a squirrel. You heard it from me.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just beg the question. I'm not here to tell people you're wrong for thinking this or condemn anybody.
Yeah.
I just think it's best when we can say that we would have. Again, I debate with my friend Nir. We have very different views. I'll go, you keep that. I was like, I'll give you an example. And this is again like we can feel all the different ways about it. I was like, I hear that you don't give a fuck about COVID. You don't care. You don't do nothing. I was like, yo, so if your mama dies, don't come crying to me.
Right.
And he was like,
True.
cool, I agree.
Yeah. I mean,
But what I suspect
Just for the sake of argument.
for the sake of argument, and you can call me soulless, but I said I'm gonna come up in this chat.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you know because I'm gonna be like, yo, that's a real dub. Not because I'm like, not because I'm not because I'm sensitive, but because I like again, it was really more of a point. I actually wouldn't do that. I have empathy.
That's not a win.
That's not being a man. That's not being. But you know, that's what I'm saying. We really have to ultimately apply these things.
To ourselves.
Are you saying
And we
that?
do,
If,
but at the-
are you saying that if I said your wife is gonna be in the she has alopecia, made fun of her about it, you
Are you
would
talking
slap
about
me
Will
across the
Smith?
face? Yeah.
No, that was out of pocket. I'm not for that. I'm not.
No.
First of all, I'm
Dude,
not for
didn't
it.
he just-
I'm not for it on a lot of reasons because I think that was an amazing night for the first time that the Oscars was allowed to, and I say allowed because it's never been done before to have a predominantly black cast, and then you have two black men on TV, one's assaulting the other over something. No, I don't think it's. I think it's comedians, and I'd love to get in this because I thought me and you would actually share a commonality in this. I think. You gotta let that man live. It wasn't that bad of a joke. It's comedy.
Bro,
You know?
Well, that's
it
what I'm saying.
was.
Everything
I
is
can't
just
believe he fucking like.
Word.
You know, but you gotta watch him read one of the chapters.
Yeah.
He talks about his entire sense of masculinity and being a man was wrapped up in how his women perceived him.
Yeah. I've seen that.
And
actually.
it's an actual reading, and the women in his life are sitting around him, and one of them was, dang, what? And he said that his whole thing is wrapped up in that.
Wow.
You know, so I think there's a multitude of things. She's unhappy. He's so incensed and needing to be the ideal man, and he does something erratic. You know, I don't condone it. I don't think it's right. Again, I thought it was kind of weak sauce. You know.
Yeah, bro. It's a fucking.
But I think everyone loses. I think everyone else loses. So.
Yeah, dude. That was a whole crazy.
Chris Rock's
situation.
blowing up now.
Yeah, dude.
Chris
Yeah,
Rock
you
is
see,
winning.
his brother is bad.
No, multiple of his brothers are coming out now.
His
Multiple brothers are like, one of them's calling for the Oscar to be taken away.
I think Will Smith he dropped out of the Academy.
He did drop out of the Academy.
And then I think he had two movies that were playing that I just saw this today that both.
They're paused, I think. I
Yeah.
don't think they're canceled, they're paused.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's really taking that act.
I mean,
all
bro,
the way, huh?
that was an
He's really trying to convince
extreme,
people
bro.
it was
Like
real.
people, I don't think people realize how, like, him walking up on a stage and slapping Chris Rock in front of that on the Grammys, like, or on the Oscars, sorry. I feel like that's such a big stage and that's such a crazy thing to do.
It's probably arguably one of the biggest.
The biggest thing that's
Yeah.
happened, like.
Yeah, I think
mean-
also too you gotta ask yourself, and I don't think I've ever been in this position as like if you're being completely badgered all the time, and he's been again I
slander
don't
for the
I
last,
don't
like 2 years.
Yeah, especially because like the way I think the problem with the way Jada went about it, and this is my interpretation of what I know, so I don't want to say I'm an expert on this, is it seemed like she went and talked about their marital affairs without being like, oh, we're clear, like this is my show, I want other women to be able to talk about this. I think there's nothing wrong with it. Both parties are really feeling understood and seen.
Yeah.
But then the problem with that is that I think it very much seemed like when he actually went on the red table that it was like, oh, you blindsided me by talking about this.
Yeah.
I mean,
I suspect Will Smith was out here bagging biddies on the side as well and doing all that. So I don't think he's no angel.
Yeah.
You know, I think
Yeah.
that's a very interesting.
Yeah.
You know, she just has a platform and that's how she talks. So
I think I asked that to just try to find the line between like, okay, where is the mark that you can physically assault someone and everyone's going to agree with you for it?
I don't think it's ever cut and dry. I think that's a great question. I think again, and I think there's time and place. I think
there is a line. If somebody is threatening to harm your life and you don't feel that there's anything else you can do but defend yourself physically, that's when it's okay to hit someone else.
Other times though? There's no other
when
times.
When else is it acceptable to hit somebody? What reason do you have to hit someone other than to defend
I don't know.
yourself?
I think there's a degree of like what you guys were talking about before. Like
when is it okay
your mom
to hit
calls
someone?
your mom. Someone says something about your mom. And
it
stuff
doesn't
like
make it right.
See,
and I'm not saying I wouldn't do it.
I think there's a level
faultless.
of a line that if someone says some bad enough stuff about the person, you have a right to do
physically.
something.
Words.
I don't know, bro.
I beg the question. I don't know what's right, and I agree with you, Tony. I think that's a really interesting question. I'm here for the dialogue, you know.
Yeah.
Partially why I wanted to come on here. I wanted to like dialogue about stuff like this, but I think at a certain point there is a point, like, you know, Bryce is saying that it's like, yo, like, I am mad at that. Like, you know, there is a time, and I think it does change. I think I think again, like, just to bring it back to the dialogue we were originally having, is like, if I'm in a situation, we're at a protest, both sides are protesting, that's fine and all, you can yell, scream in my face. If I have a bunch of, like, going back to your thing at the bar, if I have a bunch of dudes who are like 6'1", white guys coming after me, calling me an N-word, and I punch somebody, is that really out of pocket?
No, bro.
You know, like, again, it's.
I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I'm saying it's right. It's not right.
So do you see morals as black and white? I think is a really good question. Because I used to, and I very much, as I've come to learn and try to understand humanity as a whole, is everything is a spectrum and scale. To some degree, some people are angrier and are great fighters. That's why you have great fighters. If everybody approached it that way, everyone would be able to just be on the UFC and be a boxer and do all this stuff. Like, you know, every person would have a moral compass like you. They'd be like, hey, that man's talking, like, it just hypothetically, that man's talking about my mom, or talking about someone that's cancer in my family, or coming after us for our heritage, and I'm gonna turn the other cheek. Maybe that's from a religious standpoint. I don't know if that's for you. Maybe you grew up. I'm saying that different people have different reasons, but that's what I'm saying. I think it's never. I think things are never black and white, and that's why, again, back from the beginning of the podcast, is I think the truth lies somewhere in between.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I think I'd love for you to marinate on it, and if I ever come back on again, I'd love to re-engage in that.
Yeah.
But I know that you had some questions for me about having two moms, and like we kind of like went on a tangent. I just want to bring it back to you.
I almost just went in my deep thought process. All right.
Well, I saw you go in the vortex.
Because I do almost think my morals could be black and white, but that doesn't mean I live by them.
I'm a man who tries to walk my talk. I don't always do it, but I think if
I'm saying right now, words are words, and nobody should assault someone over words. But doesn't mean I ain't gonna do it.
But I think that
you probably have before.
But I think that's me. Absolutely, I fought fucking a million people for stupid shit.
Yeah.
But every time I look back on it, it's like, was that the right thing to do? Should I have just kept my cool and been the bigger man? Yes, every time. But no, I didn't, and I won't. And I
usually
will
that's
continue
right there.
not to be the bigger man.
How many
but
times?
Do I think morally do I know what was morally right? Yes.
How many times after the fight or after the thing you look back and say I shouldn't have done that?
Every time.
Yeah. So that's
also
defines
too,
your line
but
right
I think what that also is as humans, especially now in 2022, is what we're in general, as we've developed and modernized, we're asking ourselves to have more mental dialogue around a primal response. Like, I think the hitting somebody is very like primal, which is like, if it's there for a reason.
It's a caveman tactic. That's how you win a fight when you're a caveman.
I mean, I think so. I think there's truth to that. I personally don't want to box myself into thinking that there's no moment that is like, you know, I don't think I could say that there's no moment personally. I think also too, I think it also depends on like what your life experience is, what, you know, like how you've seen it, what, like, you know, there's, you know, you tell people, like, I think about it too, like, oh, like, work harder, and like I go over to Cambodia and I have friends there, and it's like, you know, or Vietnam, after we dropped like Agent Orange on them, and like you have people still generations being born deformed, You know, like literally just like jacked up. Or I've been in places where I couldn't walk off the path or there's landmines, you'd be blown up.
Holy shit.
Yeah, like
That's real.
Right,
Yeah.
real. So I went to the Cambodian killing fields where they used to bash babies' heads and swing them by their legs, and there's still bone fragments in the trees.
Jesus.
They're still finding places where bodies are coming out from like that genocide there.
See,
so
if people could see that stuff though, I think it would change so many people's perspective.
Yeah.
That's another part of
You
traveling.
wouldn't hate America so much if
You look at things so much different than I'm going to look at things because I've never seen that.
yeah, and that's part of me where I go. Like I think that's like a moral thing for me. It's like change that. Like it's like, is it never right to use violence? Is it never? Is it always wrong? Is it? It's just a big question. I think everyone's gonna have a different response and a different thing. But yeah, I think it's just like this. Like I think as you see more, experience more, and it's very interesting to go to a country that's like communist or go to a country and it's literally the same as America. And because they believe something so fervently, but they don't have any room for, like, I guess, like, they love to have an opinion they know nothing about. Yeah. So you so fervently hate democracy, they so fervently do it. Yeah. And then you reflect on it, you're like, isn't that what I'm doing? Yeah. What makes me right? Right. And then I think there are circumstances. I personally believe, like, people's rights and liberties and things like that. So and I think we all have different things, but I think, like, it's an interesting dialogue. I think it's an interesting thought process. But when you see that firsthand, I'd be really curious too, like, if you ever travel or you ever want help do something, like go to a place like that and then, like I was, like with Bryce's situation with the police, man, with the police in Mexico, I literally was like, oh, I saw that coming 10 minutes before he told us.
Right.
Yeah. You just said Akumal.
You just said
they run them pockets there.
Yeah. You just
literally, my boy, I was down in Cancun. He was like our point guard in college. Police pulled up with him with AKs, walked him to the ATM, and was like, give us like 300. Yeah. Bryce did the right thing. He got out of it. I think the drinking the beer was a little bit of a little privilege in that, a little risk in there, but I'm not necessarily against it. I can't say I've not done some drunk scooter rides while in Asia. I'm just saying,
Isn't it like the number one goal in any situation like that is get out alive and safe? Like, right?
Yeah. Interesting thing to talk about. I guess I just want to, I want us to, so it's easier for your edit because I know how editing goes. Like,
this is gonna probably just run.
We do raw.
We do raw. Well, again, I want to come back to your questions. I'm really curious about your questions about like having like gay parents or lesbian parents. But a thing I think in that, there's a couple things in there. I think one thing, again, some coaching, some tips for if you've been watching and staying with us in this podcast, is some travel tips. I tell a lot of my friends who present as white, because not everyone I have Puerto Rican friends that look white and they travel. And I think you got to remember that you're seen as privileged automatically, whether you're not. You could be, because you got to remember that the living standard is different. So our poor is wealthy. Right. Like I'll give you an example. My friend has a degree, and I think was getting paid like $14,000 or $15,000 for the year, working with a degree from the U.S. in her country. So like you're seen.
True,
so I go traveling with some of my white friends, and I won't come for everybody like this, but I think this is really useful for people to realize. And they're like, "Oh, I'm in Colombia. None of the girls will give me attention in this club. We're in the club. I'm with my boys. A lot of them are like, oh, the girls love me. They like give me so much attention." I said, "No, you a meal ticket.
White and they're
you a meal ticket, bro." And then they heard me speak English and speak Spanish. Boom! Everybody on me. Oh, you from New York? New York, bro? Mm-hmm. Oh, come talk to me. I said, no. I'm gonna talk to the shorty who was talking to me before you knew I was American. Yeah.
I love how for like 3 seconds you're like, yeah, what the, like you just get it. It just goes back to like
real quick.
Yeah, it goes back to some hood shit real quick.
I mean, again, the Renaissance man, you be multifaceted. It's that J. Cole line. Like my mama told me, speak like I have a college degree. I can, but I won't. I'm saying what I want. Yeah. So again. I'm a professional. I show up to professional spaces. I've done crazy things with people with tons of money. Yeah. But again, I think it's about being genuine, but also knowing the time and space. So like, some of the audience that you have may not understand if I was just slanging it. Yeah. So it's a little bit. We call that code switching actually. Mm-hmm. And code switching. Code switching is something that like a lot of like children from urban spaces or people from urban spaces have to learn, because you're not seen as professional if you have dreadlocks. You're not seen it, and that's natural for people. Yeah. If you have afro, that's not professional. Oh, you speak funny. Speak the way we want you to speak. Right. And so, like part of what that is like to be seen as a professional, as a person of color. There's certain people, and I tend not to like suck up or do anything, but it's something that you learn. I learned subconsciously as a child.
Yeah.
Well, appearance-wise, everything you said was extremely valid. But in terms of speaking with broken English versus not, is that what we're talking about?
I think if you're to really understand linguistics, there's something called the African American vernacular, it was formerly I think referred to as Ebonics, and linguists or let's look at like patois from Jamaica. Linguists have officially made it a language. Really? Because to understand language, there's broken language, which is usually considered pidgin, we call it, which is an in-between language. And then there's a point where it becomes a full language. So African American vernacular comes from black people being slaves and us using language that was set up in, when you learn Spanish, when you conjugate verbs and things like that, and you're in Spanish class, or like el and la, that's the same thing for black languages or African languages. So you had people learning English but speaking in African patterns, the English language. What? And so then people...
I don't be liking that, right? Is that what you're talking about?
And so but people don't understand that the history people are like, oh, that's because you're uneducated. The history goes much deeper and further back, is that it's because it originates in languages like Spanish, like you say things different directions. You say it backwards.
That's interesting.
So when we're saying that, I think there is a time and place that we do need to have different dialogue or speak a language that's we can share.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it should be done in boardrooms or
Totally.
But I think at the same time, if you automatically it'd be the same thing as it'd be the same thing as saying
calling myself out right now. I didn't know. It seems that the more I learn, the stupider I find out.
I mean, the way I would put it is it's the same concept of saying a person from the South is dumb because they have an accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people I guess they just.
But your language doesn't mean you're dumb. If you talk weird, doesn't mean you're stupid.
Right, and I think it's interesting, and I think it's an interesting person because I consider you to be a wordsmith. I've watched your videos.
Oh, cool.
Cool. I
Cool.
went through your whole thing. You're talking about
Genius.
I really like the video where you shot yourself behind the if you guys haven't, B Money's music videos, go check them out on YouTube. But the way you were doing it, but behind almost like a magazine stand or something, you were had the camera pointed at your face. You were on the street.
Oh, I don't know what we're talking about.
I don't know which one. I mean, I'll have to get the name of this.
Was it Peter Parker?
I think it might have been Peter Parker.
In New York City. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's where I think people, again, I'm obsessed with understanding why we think this about people or why we have these perceptions. And I think people all actually say that about patois and Jamaican English, or their language, and that's just another version of combination of British vernacular, African conjugation and the way words come together, and then bringing that together, and now it's officially a language. If a language stays pidgin long enough and it stays spoken by a group of people, it gets officiated as a language. So Yiddish is a good example of that. Yiddish is Hebrew and I think Russian or German, and that's what Jewish people speak from that region. So it's only certain. It's not a huge community that speaks it, but it's a bit of a dying language. But it's still there. There's a whole group of Jewish folks that speak that in the city.
Shit.
So
we learn it out here, bro.
Yeah.
That's some sick shit.
All right. Well, we've been going long, so I want to get into this because this is very, to me, very interesting. So just to explain where I'm coming from, I grew up with 4 brothers.
Right.
So there was no female energy in my house. There was my mom, and she was probably hiding from us, trying to get the fuck away from us. Just do her motherly duty. So growing up, I had weird relationships with girls for a long time. I didn't
because you came from just all masculine energy, all men.
When I was ready? This is a true story. When I was 10 years old, up until then, I thought girls peed out of their butts. I said that to him. He's like, yo, I got a little sister. Shout out, Mo. And he's like, I'm like, bro, they pee out of their butts. You're stupid, because I knew cows peed out of their butts. The cows are females. And I still don't know if that's true. But I knew it when I was little.
Tony going for better.
Yo, listen, I'm fine exposing myself. This is me. And I fucking got into an argument with this kid when we were mad young. I was like, how do you know they pee out of their vaginas? He's like, because I got a sister, bro. I seen it. And that blew my mind. I was like, damn, I really don't know shit about girls. And but with that being said, I knew how to be a man. And I learned probably too much too fast when I was young. So for me, very, like, I'm curious who your male, like, who you looked up to, who was the male role model for you, and did you ever have trouble with that?
Did you even need one?
Because you were, right, I don't even know what I don't know.
I think that same
with
question,
that.
and it's really interesting, is you could ask that for any community that grows up without a father.
Yeah.
Any person. And, you know, so you just gotta like,
Same shit.
you gotta flip it out in the other way. It's like, if you grew up without a father, how do, you know,
Where did you get
where
your-
should you get
so
that?
fucked.
Right,
Yeah.
but I think, but for me, I grew up seeing semi-healthy relationships, and the reason I say semi-healthy is the majority of my friends' parents are not divorced. My parents have been together since they were 16 and 17. My mom is having her 60th birthday on the 11th.
Wow.
So, you know,
Shouts out to
So-
yeah, shout out to Mumsy, you already know the drill.
Happy birthday,
Yeah.
yo!
So like when you say your mom,
Yeah, so there's Mama and Mommy, it's how I divided it up
Got
as a
it.
kid. Mom was Barbara, and then Mommy's Kim.
Okay.
And you know, I can tell you it was harder having white parents than it was having gay parents.
Oh,
Because they could see it from the
Holy
outside.
shit.
So
Like
because
anyone.
because I think the root of any family is love. I think that's just like the bare minimum. I think I often, again, to tie back to what I said earlier, is families are made. I think there's like this overly like archaic thing put on blood.
Genetics, yeah.
But then you look at all the families in history who are blood related and who like fucked each other over or fucked the world over. World War I is because of blood.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Tsar of Russia, the king or president of Germany, and the head of England were all cousins. And then the Tsar's wife was the first cousins with the king of England. So that was all over blood. It was all over this thing, and it was, you're supposed to have my back, you're supposed to do this, and no matter what you do or what you prescribe to make something as like finite and like the thing that we need to like hold our morals and standards by is never held.
Yeah.
So I tend to find that like made family, and if you probably think about it, friends or people who are like family plays just as much as an intricate role in your life, if not maybe even more because you spend more time with them. Like you guys said, you grew up together.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right? Like probably the amount of time is probably more than maybe some of your brothers if you actually think about it, especially if you went to school together. It's the same thing as saying we spend more time with our coworkers than our families.
Yeah.
So
You know.
Are you saying that it was pretty much regular to you since your since childhood? When did you like realize that there was something different?
So my parents have been really awesome from the rip. They're like, families, you know, might not look like ours, but the families look different all the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, and then my mom's from probably one, maybe two, were like, you're adopted, this is where you're from.
Really?
You know, we love you very much, like our family's made. You know,
Wow.
it's like
That's
from the
good
rip.
fucking parents.
I know some families, I've met kids who their parents lied to them until they were 16.
Yeah.
So what about in
Psychological-
Well, I feel like that's the norm.
fucked.
Isn't that the norm? They don't tell.
I know,
Kids are adopted?
I don't know, it's,
think that's
families have a false, I think, and this is what I want to talk on another podcast, or, and I'd love to do maybe spin-off conversations with just from like people like you guys who have like
We
general
can talk to
questions.
you for fucking
But
hours.
yeah, I mean, the thing is with that is that I don't know. I think that there's just this perceived notion that because you have two moms, again, you like won't know how to be a man.
No.
You won't know how to do these things. What I actually learned from my straight friends and families was I learned what I didn't want to be as a man.
No.
How I didn't want to treat women. How I wanted to be. Because again, this is no shots at my friends. A lot of them tend to have masculinity issues because they're trying to be their fathers rather than take what they should, take what's good, and then be like, I should leave that.
Yeah.
That isn't me. They're so obsessed subconsciously or maybe consciously of following directly in these footsteps because this is what it is to be a man. This is what it be. And I looked at all these men and some of them are really wonderful and everyone has their shortcomings. But I was like, I want some of this. I want some of this. I like that. And I'm like, and then I'm like, okay, this is all the best things that make a man. You know, or how do you arrive as a man,
Yeah.
right? You know, so again, I think also too, you hear shit from people. So you grow a thick skin. People used to try to come for me in high school and be like, "Oh, Zach, like I heard your mom's a lesbian. Let me joke around. Let me holler." I was like, "Nah, she ain't interested in you. Is your mom free Friday night? She trying to slide. What's up?"
But you
Let's go.
that developed, right? So like, were you always that quick-witted, or did that have to develop early at 8?
No, so what happens, I think, and I think this is also too, again,
For
not
you.
to tie it all to race and things like that. I think as a kid who has white parents, again, which is not quite about being lesbian, but I think this is for anybody, is like, I call it having a white shield. So when my mom was around, I didn't have to experience racism, but the second she walked away, I would get it all. People follow me through stores. And that's why it ties into that thing of like why like having gay parents was easier. Unless my parents were literally walking together holding hands, people didn't know my parents were lesbians.
Yeah, true.
Unless you were my boy or my friends, because again, it's not something we wear.
Right, you can't tell.
Dude, I can't fucking believe that racism is still so apparent. Like, the shit you're saying is crazy. How the fuck can people in today's age not realize that, like, the other color is just a normal fucking human being, just like you?
Think of your story. I was actually really proud of you. I never actually got to tell you. I was super proud of you when you were talking about Plug PV, and you talked about that gentleman you hired who was African American, and he couldn't do it because of people were being so racist.
It was crazy.
You know,
we would go to the same neighborhoods, same things.
And you were genuinely upset, and I was like, wow, this guy is someone. That's when I was like, yo, Zach, that's a good man.
He's more well spoken than me. Like he was talented. This was Andrew King's best friend. One of Andrew King's best friends. They worked at the restaurant together.
So think about this kid.
Think about who Andrew is
and
who this guy is. Like they were best friends. Andrew said you should hire this guy. Yeah. So our number one sales rep, he referred me to this guy. And they worked in a restaurant together. And when he came in, he was a stud. Like the way he could articulate things, the way he would talk was great. When we would go to neighborhoods, dude, and it was like to see, you hear it, but to see it happen, I'm like, dude, this guy is literally. We would go to the same door, and that person, like, you're still knocking on doors. People are gonna be rude to you, quote unquote. They're not gonna be friendly.
Yeah, they're not gonna.
But bro, one guy opened the door, literally before he said anything, get the fuck out of here, N-word. And I was like, what?
Yeah. And I'm not trying to make this whole podcast about that, but so that's why I say, like, it was interesting having two moms. And the reason I also say it's interesting, because I want to just point this out for my friends who have gay dads. Having two moms is socially cool.
Yeah,
oh, that shit is hot. Right. That shit is dope. What? Bro, like, people used to ask weird questions, like if I, like, looked at my mom's.
Yeah.
That's fucking weird.
What is any high school kid's real relationship and all they know about lesbians? Porn.
Well, and again, it's a lack of. I'm not condemning anyway. It's a lack of exposure.
Oh, I'm not standing up for it. I'm not standing up.
No, I don't think you are either. I'm acknowledging. I agree with you.
I'm just saying that's what they related to because they don't.
And that's the only thing they've ever seen. Exactly. Like National Lampoons or like American Pie or like.
They don't have any real experience with.
It's so interesting because even as somebody growing up with gay or lesbian parents, I used to be like, oh, this shit's gay. I couldn't. It's funny how you're like brainwashed into these things. Like my mom would be like, oh, that's kind of jacked up. They're using like this as a downer. Yeah. And I'd be like, dang.
And you would say it in front of them?
Well, then I had to, that's like when I started thinking about it.
Yeah, we used to say that for everything.
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
Our generation, we're all guilty for that.
You're mad gay for that, bro. Like, we say that all the time.
Yeah.
Like that.
I'm not even mad at people.
Yeah.
I'm not mad, but it's just understanding ourselves. Just because and I guess that goes a little bit of what you're saying, just because you have a moral feeling and something about it doesn't mean that you always act on it. Right. I think it's a little bit like, some of that does play a factor. I think.
See, so you would even say, like you would say, yeah, that's gay. Like you would make.
So I used to. I don't really do it anymore. But it's also too. You got to remember, like as a person who has a multiracial family, who's gay moms, sometimes you're just trying to make sure that shit isn't hot. Yeah. Like you like just don't like. I don't want the heat on me today. Yeah, I don't want to deal with that problem. Yep. It could be also it's anything. If your parent has a disability, if you're
anything other than normal.
Yeah, like you think about anything you guys like felt insecure about. You weren't like trying to be like, excuse me guys, like can I talk to you? Like you're not like wanting that, especially as an adolescent. You're not wanting that. Yeah. So yeah, I think any other questions that you have about that?
No, listen. I want to end it up on a light topic.
Yeah.
You got Tony perplexed right now.
I've been talking.
You're buffering.
I'm
You're buffering. Your brain's spinning. We're gonna finish up on a light topic. We've probably been going for like an hour.
Wait. I got questions. I want to know about the fucking bees. My guy said, what were you gonna ask? Were you gonna hit with that?
What?
Were you gonna go with the bees?
No,
I gotta know about the bees.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tell me about
I'll be really quick about this. And so
don't try to rush. It's fine.
Buzz through it. Come on.
Me and my friend had started a company called Sweet Abundance. You can look us up online, sweetabundanceny.com, and we're like a local fruit delivery service, and we do exotics, and we're starting to try to work with local farmers. It's basically meant to be kind of like a farmer's market online, you know.
But exotics, you said.
Well, we do exotics as well, like yellow dragon fruit, soursop, mangosteens.
He's
like,
selling weed.
Yeah, all different strains.
The red dragon. Oochie goochie.
Yeah, exactly.
What else?
But what I went to minored in entrepreneurship business, much like Zach. I have a huge passion, and I think yourself for, again, understanding business and trying to become self-sufficient and things in that regard. So I was like, what is something, fruit I can't really brand, because it's, whether even if I'm specifically growing it, it's really hard to be like, this dragon fruit is only from our location.
It's like,
but what I can do is, when I thought of honey, is I can go, this honey comes, they call it an apiary, from our apiary. It's a farm, honey farm.
A beekeeping facility is called an apiary?
I believe that's exactly what it's called. It's an apiary.
I believe it too now.
Yeah, so the person who's advising this has been doing it for 16 years. She's like wonderful. Her name's Kitty Gibbons. Big shout out to her.
Shout out to Katie. Don't be taking my shit.
I'm sorry. You gotta get the shout out. Yeah, but she's been wonderful. And it's been a really interesting process. They come tomorrow. We have 5 boxes we're starting with. Our land.
Wait, the bees come tomorrow?
Yeah, bro.
Oh shit.
Yeah, pick them up, and they come in little like cages with all the bees and the queen inside of it.
So dope.
And you just like dump them in the hives, and so that's where the honey and that.
Dude, I'm gonna need some fresh honey, bro.
We're hoping. If it turns out well,
Fruit, that's all part of the carnivore diet.
I do. I eat. That's what I eat.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk again. Just if you're gonna order from us, please email first. We're just sorting through like some logistics, and we use Squarespace, and they don't offer a cash option, which some people like to do on pickups, because it's like pretty much us being the deliverers right now. We're eventually moving out to get drivers, and as we grow is the hope. But
and where is your facility again? I'm sorry, you might have.
So we pretty much operate out of our houses right now, and our like my garage, my friend's house as well.
You got the bees living in like the bathroom.
Yeah. So the bees, they just bought 200 acres. So the bees are on our 200 acres up outside Allenville. And then with the fruit, we work with a partner in the city. So that's where we get. And then we're starting to work with local farms. So there's a couple farms. I'm not going to put their names out yet because we haven't like finalized those kind of conversations and deals. But the hope is also to get like wild local blueberries, like local plums. A lot of them are organically grown. So if that's like a big deal for you, great. Yeah. Even for our exotics, we try to mix it up so it's organic and non-organic.
And you're going to deliver them right to the house?
Yeah, we're actually moving to probably do reusable bags or a reusable system. So you would leave the bag out, we put the new one on your porch, and it helps lower impact, and it's a higher sustainability. Also lower cost for us. You're not buying boxes left and right. You're not buying packaging.
Right.
So
it's
a win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win.
Yeah, it's just a more proficient system.
You got a customer right here, bro.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I eat a lot of fruit. That's like,
So the goal is that we're trying to provide, and it's really at fair prices. We do like a banana box for like $35 for like I think 8 bushels of bananas or something like that, maybe more. I have to look at those numbers again, but the reason that we did that is if you are somebody who is like trying to do really specific diets, you can make nice cream, which is ice cream out of bananas. It's great.
You can make pancakes out of it.
You can make pancakes out of bananas.
Yeah, bananas are versatile, bro.
Really versatile. And then we have the citrus box right now, and then we have one called the Sweet Surprise, which is just like, you might get some crazy.
Yeah, some wild shit.
That's
a good idea.
Now, do you don't have like a, and I hate to do this, but I feel like this is how everyone likes to find shit, but you like an Instagram?
Yeah, you can look us up at Sweet Abundance NY. We're a little low on we started during COVID, so it's been a growing process. We did, just so people are aware of where we're at, we're really just working out a lot of our kinks and things like that. We did like 2 rounds during COVID.
Fundraising?
Not really fundraising, it was just we wanted to test our system. We wanted to see if prices were fair. We wanted fair access. I mean, the whole goal is to grow, and so we can actually provide experiences like this for students in school. Like I work with the students in school, expand people's horizons. Again, travel isn't just physically traveling. Yeah. It's like food, it's psychologically, it's all these things. So it all kind of fits into like who I am and who my business partner is as well.
Where do you service? Like, delivering now?
We pretty much are just localized in Hudson Valley. So like we do like Beacon, Newburgh, Montgomery, Ellenville, Stone Ridge, Kingston. It's like a triangle. We'd probably do Rhinebeck. We haven't had any clients from there, but and then like basically back down. New Paltz, Marlboro. It's like a giant big diamond, you know. Like
Got
you
it. Okay. All right. So the late topic I was going to get on, which is basically related, is the carnivore and
Yeah.
vegetarian diet. You're vegan or vegetarian?
So I grew up 14 years as a vegetarian,
Okay.
and then I switched over when I was 14 to pretty much everything, and then I'm kind of switching back currently at 29 to more veggies again, having a higher veggie intake. I really broke it down. I was looking at myself. I'm no saint. Like if the boys are going for McDonald's and we're drunk, like your boy's getting the Big Macs.
Let's go, baby.
You know,
boys getting the Big Mac.
yeah, cut it out. You know,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. But the thing is that I was looking at it and breaking it down. I know that there's different meal prep styles, and some people are like, no, 3 meals, like whatever your thing is. I was looking at it, like here's 21 meals a week. I'm eating meat for 2 each day.
Yeah.
For me, I feel since I've cut back, I feel more awake. My energy is off the wall.
Cut back on what?
On meat.
Really?
You know,
Wow.
my energy's off the wall. It's the same thing that you hear from other people too. You know, that's just so much. But everyone's body's different.
Yeah, I believe that.
Zach, what have you felt since carnivore?
Yeah.
What is it? Tell me about yours.
Listen, it's crazy, man. But like,
Same thing that he's saying that he's experienced with not eating meat.
yeah, from the carnivore diet, dude, my energy's through the roof. I've lost 11 pounds. I look shredded compared to what I used to look, and I feel like I've kept my muscle and got leaner, and after I eat lunch, if you just eat a steak for lunch, like you don't drop off. You're like wired right after. You know what I think? You know what I think I'm against? I think vegetarian is good. I think vegan is good. I think meat is good. I think a normal Western diet is the problem.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think also too, people get too obsessed with like, I think for you that probably works great. For me, because of my heritage, I have hereditary high cholesterol. So if I wanted to do your diet, I couldn't quite totally do it because the amount of nuts and the amount of fat that's in most meat would probably force my cholesterol is fine now. I take very low dosage medication, but I came off it for a little bit, went on for a little bit. You know, I'm just like trying to stabilize and see where I'm at with it. But like, if you're, you know, it's hard for some people.
Yeah.
You know, and then maybe also too, I've heard a lot of stories too, where, and again, this is anecdotal, not like I'm professional to say by any means. People getting off medication, then moving to something like vegetarian, and then they have no problems again.
Yeah.
You know, so again, it's just stabilizing, finding what works for you, and then running with it.
Yeah, I just think the Western diet, I think, is the problem. Now that you're saying that, and also, like, listen, me, so I've been doing it for 2.5, 3 months, and I listen to the guys, Carnivore MD and Liver King, all these guys, Sean Baker, they're all like scientists or whatever, and I listen to, like, they give me the statistics and the numbers and the data points. I can't fucking recite it to you. I don't know.
Yeah,
all I can tell you is what I've felt is a total difference. Like, and also, I've been lifting my whole life, and I've always tried to cut weight and bulk and all that stuff. Like, I've always been in the weightlifting, and it was always so hard to do it before the carnivore diet because you're never satisfied. So the biggest thing
you're feeling full and satiated.
Yeah,
I hear
like
that
when
a lot
I
with
eat
protein. Yeah.
carnivore diet, bro, like I enjoy every fucking meal. So that's why I've been able to stick with it and lose weight.
Well, let me flip it around on you. The reason I like doing the veggie is I'm an eater. I love food. I love to eat, and if I eat that, I have to. If I'm piling the calories through meats and things like that, I still gain the weight. For me, I can eat as much veggies as I want, as much fruit as I want, smoothies for days, and I lose weight.
So I'll tell you,
And I'm an eater, and I love that. So for me, that's why I think it works for me.
Yeah.
Kind of going to a more, again, I'm not an absolute kind of guy. I think it's wonderful that you're doing it. And I also think part of the thing for you, maybe, I'd be curious to hear about what your thoughts are, is that potentially it's also too, when you stay in stasis on a particular diet, I would like to see maybe 5 years from now, if you end up switching to a more veggie because your body gets so acclimated and used to it. It's almost like reps or like anything. If you stay, like just flat plateaued, your body's just like gets used to it, wants to store. That's normal human like kind of like consumption. Our body wants to store energy and sort of things like that, and that we have to switch it up to like re-release that.
Yeah.
So.
And I just too, like I eat a lot of fruits. I don't like just eat steaks every day. I eat eggs too. Sure. I eat raw honey. That's like a lot of my carbohydrates. I eat bananas a lot, strawberries, kiwis, like everything. You know what I mean?
That's dope, man.
I eat a lot of fruit and then just meat. And
I just eat like shit every day, and I'm always tired.
What's your gig, bro?
I just eat like shit. That's it.
yeah.
Like fast food shit, or are we talking like awesome
not
home
really.
food?
I try to eat a little healthy, but lately I've been trying to put muscle on, so I'll fucking just eat everything. everything, protein shakes, and then I'm trying to have super high protein foods.
Are you
I
putting
have
enough
been eating
output though, like with your weightlifting or your training? Because like
Am
if
I
you,
training enough?
yeah, like just I'm not like a fitness guru.
I have been in the gym a fucking lot.
Yeah.
But I still think I could eat a lot cleaner than I do. But it's so easy to just fucking.
Yeah, because I
See,
think
that's-
there's go for it. No, go for it. Go for it.
I was gonna say that's why I think the carnivore diet has worked so much, and maybe same thing for your vegetarian diet because you can eat so much of it, not gain weight. Carnivore diet, I can eat so satisfactory and not be like after my meal, I didn't feel like I ate like shit, and I was totally satisfied eating the food I ate. You know what I mean? And like I don't know. Now that we're sitting here more talking about it, if you go get a sandwich from the deli, the amount of shit that I feel like, maybe not a sandwich, but
No, you're onto something. I just heard something really interesting from some British YouTubers was that they were like, it's so funny how much more calorie dense the American food is.
that's what I was gonna say.
And what that is because we have so many additives. Like I was with the kids the other day at school and they were like, yo, Maui, that's what they call me, that's my nickname from Moana.
Yeah.
My hair's up, so I have long hair, but the thing is that they were like, look at what's in this water. And it says 0 calories, and it's like potassium and chloride or something, like all this crazy chemicals. And it's like, it's gotta be doing something. Might be 0 calories.
Do you drink special water or anything? Do you
No. I just use a bird filter. You know, I live in Newburgh. The city, the government there is like screwed our water over, and we had the same thing in Flint, Michigan. Actually, people don't realize that.
Oh shit!
So we had like
Newburgh's rough.
messed up pipes and all this stuff, and they like weren't doing anything about it.
Yeah,
like at the gym, we couldn't drink the water for like a year and a
Newburgh.
half.
This is recent.
Yeah, this is like right before COVID.
Wow.
And I just don't trust it. I don't trust it. So we do like bird filters. We do things like that.
I was curious because I know you're into nature and you know what I mean.
I mean, I'll go out the mountain like the Sasquatch and literally just drink right out the hill.
Right.
Like I can
Literally, all the water I have in my house comes from a natural spring.
That's amazing. That's
It's in Kingston.
No,
man.
I plugged it last time too. There's a spring in Kingston.
No, it's lit. Yeah, I think I know what internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch in the area. They're really nice, and you can collect. You bring your water bottle down, you can collect it.
That's
It's
all I
wonderful. It's
drink.
fresh. It's got tons of minerals because it's right out the mountain. It's
I
really
filled
wonderful.
this bitch up.
That's
Actually,
right,
I
I'm
keep
drinking
big
that
ass bottles with
shit.
me and I just refill these up.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be doing it with plastic, but
Yeah.
fuck it. Clean
Oh
water.
yeah, dude. Listen, 1% better is 1% better. So fucking spring water.
Let's not even get on the topic of microbial plastics because there's some.
Oh my god!
news.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, I mean, spring water. That's why I like it because it's coming right out the mountain. You're less likely, hopefully, to get some of that.
Yeah, because now they're finding microbial plastic present in like 80% of humans that they test. It's in the lungs. It's in.
I feel like we gotta have another podcast.
Plastic-
He's on something that I love
Yo,
to talk about, but I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. He is a bright.
That guy carnivore MD who does all the carnivore shit. He's so big on like nothing he does touches plastic. Yeah. Nothing. His meat, his drink, his water, nothing. He never is around plastic.
Does he order from a butcher? Because oftentimes you can, like, if you go to an actual
I'm not sure
traditional
exactly
butcher,
what it
you
does.
can
It's the
have-
only way. I'm looking around in I'm in my shower. I'm in my kitchen. Everything is in plastic.
Plastic, bro.
Everything.
Yeah, that's the big thing I've also done in my life is I switched like hair products and stuff. Again,
Yeah.
not out of plastic, but doesn't have all the paraffins or
Yeah,
anything
same
like that. My trash bags are biodegradable. So it doesn't mean that my trash that I'm creating is necessarily that, but at least
Yeah.
the thing that's holding it just doesn't create a tomb in the earth and just like leave it. At least it can, the things that are, I think a big thing I would encourage people to do, no matter what your walk of life is, try to be like, what are little things in my personal life that I can have an actual impact, even if it's just minute, that's easy enough to do.
Right.
Because that's, I think when you get millions of people to do it, that's when you have
Right. Act as if what
changes.
you're gonna do is large
Right.
scale.
I think it's hard for oftentimes for people to like think beyond you to like the next generation or all these things, but I think when you start thinking about it in the sense of like, again with my diet, what can I do that, is gonna have like make me a better productive person, and then maybe what is something like some like small things in my life that I can do to improve the space or make my life healthier. So
Well, I sell solar panels, so I don't have to do anything else.
no, my guy here.
I use all kinds of fucked up shit. But alright, well listen, this was a fucking amazing episode.
Felt rushed, even though I know we just went
Oh,
long
rush
as
is.
fuck.
I think it's almost 2 hours.
I'm sure it
No
is.
way.
Yeah,
Man,
it's
been a long
8:49.
time.
Bro,
It's
we
been a
gotta
long
get
time.
you back on. That's
You're very
crazy.
interesting, man. You got a lot of good stuff to talk
I
about.
didn't even
man.
say 5 words the whole time.
No.
This guy's been in more countries than I shit in toilets. Like, We need to
Get
talk.
more ass in the toilet seat.
No, I mean, I really would. I mean, I'd love to come back on, and we can maybe be. You know, I know you guys like to kind of do like a really open format. It's been really great. Shout out your cameraman for me.
Shout out Mobby Flay,
Yeah.
baby.
Bobby, baby.
Mobby's dead, but he's one in the building.
You know, and shout out to you guys for building this. It's, you know, a lot of people talk about doing podcasts and doing these things, and the first step is really just doing it. And so I'm just proud of you guys, and it's really awesome.
Thank you, bro.
Pleasure to meet you, bro.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Hug it up.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this, and if there's ever a time or a topic you guys want to cover, I'm happy to come back on. And for any of you guys who are watching, the viewers, you know, you can hit me up on Instagram, longwaytogo_travel. If you have travel questions or ever want to dialogue about stuff like that, and again, check out the fruit and honey to come, hopefully in August. So
We got to do a podcast on travel because I'm all into the travel hack.
Let them know where our podcast is now located.
Yes, let them know.
Finally on Spotify.
Let's
The
go, baby.
podcast is live on
It's looking
Spotify.
good.
Also on YouTube, obviously the live version if you want, or not live version,
Yeah,
but
it is.
video version.
Yeah.
I encourage you to watch that one. It's great to see everyone's faces.
Yeah.
I do like that for you.
I can't listen to any podcast on Spotify now. Like everything has to be YouTube.
Yeah.
I gotta look at it all.
Yeah, I know. But it's good to have on
Also, you
there.
get the great cinematography as well. It adds a whole other element to it, you know.
Thank you.
Zooming in and out.
Give me your
Single
give me your-
camera.
Hey, how you doing? Hey.
Alright, well listen, you crushed it, and you got some great stuff to talk about, and I'm happy we got to have you on. And honestly, I think my perspective changed on like 3 things. Well, not changed totally, but
Well,
new perspectives
You
on new
definitely
things.
did open my eyes. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I mean we're all victims. of
Listen,
that.
bro, I was
We're all
walking
grown.
through.
We're all grown.
I was walking through Chinatown today when I finished my rib tattoo, which we'll have to reveal in the next show. But I'm walking through Chinatown today, and it's like, dude, I can understand that feeling of what you felt, what you probably felt like for in your life, because bro, like I was walking at 8:45 a.m. in the morning, so it was packed with people. Not one person was not Asian. Every single person that was walking by was Asian. I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm in a fucking different world. Like, this is so weird. And so, I don't know. I can relate to it.
No,
I know how you
we'll do
feel
another
about it.
podcast.
His story of oppression is so moving. How did you
It
get
just
through
was,
it?
bro, like, you're walking through, like, when I went to Greece, man, I was fucked up in the head. We're walking, and we're at the restaurant or whatever, and everyone else is speaking Greek. And I'm like, dude, this is wild. Like,
Yeah.
I'm the only fucking one who was speaking English. We are around 1 million people, and everyone else speaks Greek. And like, I don't know, I had like an out-of-body experience that. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I mean, we'll get into this. I'm happy to come on and we'll do really travel specific. We can get into the nitty
Yeah, we
gritty.
got it.
I'll give out tips, like backpacks, gear. We can get into all into that.
Yes.
So
yeah.
awesome, guys.
All right, boys.
Thanks so much.
Full